Guys, welcome back to the Covers Club podcast. This is episode 2, kind of episode 1. We had a great episode with Doug last week, and now I bring on the CEO, founder, the man that really started all this, John Lillis. And this is a great chance to kind of let us talk to you guys directly and let us tell you, exactly who we are, why we started this whole venture, and you can kind of tell what this podcast is really going to be about as we start growing it, because of where we've been, where we're coming from, and so I think it's a good opportunity. I mean, John, man, you've been in this sphere for years and years, a lot longer than I have. The betting sphere itself, and your background really has reason to do with that. Wherever you want to start, I mean, tell us where you came from and really how you got here.
Well, I mean, so I grew up all around sports betting, like a lot of people in my family gambled when we were, young in different ways, upstate New York. So a lot of like track days, things like that with the family. And like gambling was kind of just like entwined, I would say, in like a little bit of like my background growing up. And then, as far as athletics go, I was a professional athlete, a professional skier, a 10-year member plus of the national team, 4 world championship teams, 1 world championship win, an Olympic team, 8th place at the Olympics. And then after that, just kind of retiring and figuring out a way that I could stay in the sports sphere, but then also do it with something that I was passionate about, like coaching and everything. I kind of did that for the, later end of my career, and it just wasn't really, something that I really wanted to pursue, especially because I just had spent so many years, going to the same place, doing the same thing. So when I was done, I was ready to move away, but still wanted to, be an athlete and be around athletics. And then I was like, this sports betting sphere is really, blowing up. I was betting a lot. I still,
Still do, yeah.
obviously I bet a lot. I would say I still keep it a hobby, but definitely an income, and we try to preach that, obviously to all the people that follow us. But then I just wanted to figure out how to create something special in the industry that I felt had a lot of holes and toxic parts to it, and different things
sure.
that, just people coming into it without the right, I don't want to say attitude, but just the right intention.
Yeah.
It was a lot of me, and money grabs and this and that, and, false promises, and, really with all these new people and this new wave of people coming into the betting space, I was like, holy shit. Like, they are just teaching these people all of the bad habits,
All the wrong things.
all of the wrong things, like people coming into it with, kind of an open mind or wanting to get involved, and like seeing how fun it can be, because like a true sports bettor is so passionate about what we do, and like they watch every game and everything like that. So, I really wanted that experience for people, but it was like, how to do it. And then we kind of came up with the idea of like, the club, and helping people win, and teaching them the right ways to bet, and then teaching them to expect the right things, and how to actually, win long term, and, build a community around that. And it's been pretty fun. I would say, with all the people that we've brought in, we've met so many people from so many places. So, it's been a super fun year. It's been really successful. I can't wait to see what we can do in the future going forward, with everything that we're bringing in and people that we're bringing in. But yeah, that's kind of where we came from, and like where we're at.
Yeah, at this point we've got thousands of members on the free side, hundreds of members in the pro channel, we call it, and we're really trying to teach, especially with free plays, with giveaways, giving guys a chance to get into the pro channel, give them a way to experience what is the best way to bet. And when you started this, I remember, because I wasn't really, and I'll tell you guys my background in a little bit, but I wasn't really in the gambling sphere. I didn't know, knowing what was going to happen from making a good bet. And so a lot of guys will either, spray the board, or will just try to determine, oh, this is going to happen, so this should be my bet. what is the way and the approach that you've taken to try to teach these guys not only responsible betting but also successful sports betting?
So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach, that teaching mechanism.
Mhm.
It's a hard thing because
Yeah, it's not easy.
it's preaching people to eat vegetables instead of candy, right? Like it's not as an electric, fun, all or nothing, huge day, wins, rah rah, change your life way of gambling. And like I have total respect for that, right? Like we live in Vegas.
Yeah.
How many people do we walk through the casino every day and we just see them literally trying to change their life with every bet they make, every stop at the slot machine or whatever table they're at, it's all or nothing and life changing. And like that is fun to an extent. And that type of gambling just needs to be kept to a minimum and a hobby.
Hmm.
And if you can afford it, and if you want to do it as like a hobby where you're doing it every day and jumping into multiple sports and you're trying to really be engaged, in multiple games every day and really do that, you have to take a smarter approach towards it if you want to be successful over the long term.
Yeah.
But with TikTok and Instagram and social media and everything else, that new wave of like parlays and, change your life and huge this and that, that is the gambling that's being preached at a high consistency to these new gamblers, and realizing that content, the things being sucked in online by these new consumers, that's all paid for by the sports books. That's what they want you to see, value, listen, chase. You look at all these BR betting and all these other pages, and
Hmm.
you have to
Yeah.
look at who's behind them and why they're sharing these tickets with you, because they want, the best thing for a sports book is if a $5 ticket wins 25 grand.
Yeah.
That's the cheapest marketing they could get, because they can plaster that everywhere, and then you've got all these people just trying to replicate that success, and it's just not sustainable, right?
Yep. One thing that we preach also is, one bet a game, limit your exposure. We don't really do teasers. I'll do it once in a while if someone asks for it. You don't, take ridiculous teasers with like 12 legs and get even money for it. Something, crazy like that. But when we talk about responsible, sustainable betting, why is our approach responsible and sustainable? And why is it the way, if you're betting every day, to grow your bankroll?
So I mean, there's multiple parts of responsible betting that make it, responsible. And I don't, I don't even want to say that gambling to any extent is irresponsible.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
not at
it's
all. Yeah.
it's a degenerate
It's weird
it's a
having the two
degenerate
words together.
behavior that some people have learned how to harness into profit, and some people have let destroy their lives.
Yep.
And it's like you just have to decide which gambler you want to be, or if you're like that rare person, like we all know it, that one person that when you were in college or I was doing my ski thing, like that you were just like, how is this person using all these substances and then not, like it's the person that never got addicted, right? There's always that middle ground gambler who can like fire off bets and has money and yada yada yada. But to a certain extent, you've got, your hobbyist bettors that can afford what they're doing, the people that let it ruin their lives, and you've got the smart bettors. And like smart bettors, they're managing their money.
Mhm.
They're not overexposing. They're not putting too much money on one game. They're making sure that they have money to spread around, that if they go through a cold streak, that they don't wipe out all their money, that they don't get the call from the bookie like, hey, you owe me so much,
Yeah.
so much, so and so, and then, they don't have it. Like that is the gambler you don't want to be. You want to have your bankroll. You want to structure it as if you were an investor and make these positions, and then, that alone is not going to win. Usually that'll sustain you so you could do it for a while and you're not going to ruin your life, but that alone won't do it. Then you have to actually have some skill to it and be either able to handicap games and take the approach that you do of knowing the players and coaches and things like that, or, having a savvy market edge and using the more analytical approach, the math side of it, and looking at markets and line movement and money and how everything goes. And you can get good at that too. And both have the ability to be successful, and you have the ability to be wrong in both. Both have variance. If you learn how to successfully combine the two, the way that you and I have, of having the math side and that approach and the players and information. Not that I, don't know the players and things like that, but not to the level that you do.
Yeah.
Um, then you can really start to harness something good. And even then, you go through cold streaks and there's variance, and you have to not wipe your bankroll out and dial it back when you need to and capitalize on hot streaks and just,
Can't chase losses.
it's
It's
frustrating. The biggest thing that works against these, gamblers these days is themselves.
Yeah.
Like the books are counting on us being degenerates. Like
Yeah.
that's their biggest
doubling
profit.
our unit for a play because we just lost 2 plays or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, that's just what you can't do. And then, you know, whether it's any sport, right? I mean, my sport was skiing, or if it's gymnastics or baseball or anything, you always hear the term like bad habits, right? Or like
Yeah.
if you're playing baseball and you're moving your feet too much when you're swinging, you're like, oh, he's got a bad habit. He's moving his feet too much. Or like, if a quarterback isn't setting his feet when he's throwing the ball, he's like, oh, he's got a bad habit of not setting his feet and he's throwing interceptions because he's not putting enough on it. Like, gamblers have bad habits too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as much as you can break those bad habits and be responsible is obviously going to be best. And then that's another key component of the club. The ability that, you got to have the trust in us that we're not going to overexpose, and we know what we're doing, but like,
When
outside
we
of
play a
that,
bunch of playouts, we're doing so, effectively. We're not just spraying the board to spray the board.
yep. And then on top of that, you've got the community aspect of it, of all these other players holding you accountable. Right?
Yeah.
They're holding you accountable because, like, if you double down on the wrong play, or if you're extra cold and losing more than the rest of the group, or if you're hot, if you don't have money to capitalize on the hot streak because you were overexposed on losses and things like that, you're like, oh man, I'm not seeing the same returns as other people. These other people seem more excited and they're winning more money than me. I don't know why. And if that happens for just a slight amount of time, it starts to ingrain that accountability of like, hey, we're all riding this together. This is the system. Whether you're $10 a unit, $100 a unit, $1,000 a unit, this is what your returns should be, and not being greedy. I mean, if you had $10,000 when we started this thing, you've got more than 40 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you never had to zero out. It's just, and then that's obviously, that can be misleading, which we can talk about later, but like,
Yep.
you never want to mislead someone. It's like, hey, if you came in at the wrong time, your returns aren't going to be the same, but it's like the general principle of like betting smart over the long term. You have to look at everything big picture, look at approach, look at the knowledge going into something, the intent. Those things matter in this industry so much.
Seriously. You brought up earlier about kind of our different approaches to gambling. I mean, we could talk about some of your systems and strategies in a little bit. I'll give the guys a little bit of my background, knowing the players and the coaches. And I think a good way to explain it is actually last weekend or 2 weeks ago? Oklahoma playing Oklahoma State in Bedlam, in Stillwater, last Bedlam. Guys, this is a game that I have gone to several times. One of my favorite rivalries in college football outside of Red River, which we actually were on the over on. That one was easy. But Oklahoma State, everyone and their sister was on Oklahoma. Oklahoma had to win it. They're going to go to the college football playoff. Last Bedlam ever in Stillwater. I've been to this game so many times. I know the coaches, players, and programs. There was not a way in hell that Oklahoma State was losing this game. And so I was preaching that to everyone, and all these people weren't believing me, and all of a sudden Oklahoma State wins by 3. That's kind of the approach that I'll take a lot of times in the Big 12, in the ACC, which I used to cover when I was in college. And these are the approaches that I'll sometimes take, even if the market is saying something different. It's like, if you know, you know. So for you guys who don't know, I went to Syracuse for sports broadcasting, broadcast journalism major, sports communication emphasis. Started out in Buffalo, covered the Bills at training camp. Was my first job ever over at St. John Fisher College out in Rochester, and that was a blast. Got to actually go back to Philadelphia to cover their one of their preseason games, and that's where I kind of got my start in sports broadcasting. Went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to be a sideline reporter, sports anchor. Was on the sideline for so many games, was in the studio covering all these games, was out live, 12 to 16-hour days covering the biggest games in the Big 12, in the Midwest, and mostly in Oklahoma and Texas as well. And so I kind of took all of that knowledge. I did that for probably 7-8 years, something like that. Took all that knowledge, and then I wanted to kind of jump into and I think I put this best with Doug last week. I wanted to jump into a career where I could really build on something, and I could every day what I did would actually, was not replicable, but also something you could build on the next day. Because in sports broadcasting, I mean, you're done with a broadcast, you're done with a story, you're done with a game. That's it. It doesn't matter how well you did, doesn't matter how poorly you did. In some ways, that's great. If you have a bad day, you have a bad day, you're on it the next day and you're fine. And in some ways, it's like you don't really get to build on something. And so that's why I came here, because, every follower we get, every, member we get into the club, every win we get, that builds your bankroll, that builds a following, that builds a community. And that's why I really wanted to do this with you guys. And so that's why I love doing this with you guys. So when I say, I love the community in the free Discord and the pro Discord, I mean, it's because, it's something we've really built. We've built it from zero. I mean, about a year ago, I started my TikTok channel. You were my first follower. Now we have 7,000 something. It's like, it's pretty great. I mean, it's great to be able to do that. And so, not only that, but in the first, month or two that you taught me how to sports bet, I jumped in November. And by January, I was able to buy my fiance's engagement ring with the wins. And then that just kind of kept building from here. Now I'm, financing a wedding. Now we're financing a honeymoon. And it's like, that's what I think a good approach to sports betting is, and it's something my dad has always said too, don't use it as an income. If you're not using it as an income, don't use it as an income. It is a hobby. Always treat it as a hobby and be responsible. Don't chase losses. Basically look at it long term, because if you look back over the last year at the 400 units or whatever we've done for the last year, if you chased losses every time we had a loss, that wouldn't be 400 units. That'd probably be 200, 100 units. But if you were responsible about it, maybe even nothing.
Less, maybe nothing.
Maybe nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you chase those losses, that 400 units is gone. And so if you look at it long term, and sometimes it's hard to do, on a bad night, but if you look at it long term, it's like, man, responsible betting really is the way to do it. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have something where I could look back in a year and say, wow, we really did something. And I mean, 400 units in a year is pretty crazy. I mean, that's you talk to any investor that would take your money and say, oh, we can give you this ROI. They're not going to give you 400% of whatever it is ROI. I mean, I've never seen someone that can do that. But anyway, all that being said, that's where I am. That's how I got here. And one thing I've noticed since I started becoming kind of a TikTok face, the face that a lot of you guys see, kind of the face of the company, there is a lot of lying, toxicity. There's a lot of, basically smoke and mirrors in, hey, come into my club or come into my group, give me money and I'll make you money, because we win every day. How do you, first of all, get past that when you're trying to do it the right way like we have done? How do you build trust with a community? And then how do you spread that? Because it's like, it's not really a finite space anymore. There are a lot of people in it, but at the same time, there are a lot of people that have fallen into the wrong groups, the wrong traps, and they don't want to trust, a club like this anymore. How do you get past that, and how do you build that trust with your community?
So, with the industry being so toxic, right, there was always different ways that people were kind of, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but, one person trying to make money off another person. And like the handicapper market being what it was successful at that, because there were people that were very good at what they did. They picked winners, they gave them to people, especially people that lost, and there was a value to that. But just like anything, the gold rush or anything else like that, once people saw that money was being made in a specific industry, everyone came in and tried to saturate it as much as possible. And then you had people that were like betting $50, $100, a day, living in their mom's basement, living somewhere in like a trailer park somewhere, but they have a cell phone. And then all of a sudden they're a handicapper or a professional or the number one this or la da 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 da. And then you had, the second revelation of all these influencer type people trying to jump in on the market and like, all of a sudden they were gamblers and, then you had people buying followers and doing all this other stuff and then finding ways to, get people to buy their plays online and then, whether they were, the Vegas Dave, huge money line favorite, parlay, this, that, 30 unit whale nonsense. There was so much of it going on that everybody kind of like rejected it like a bad virus. They were like, fuck everyone. Like, fuck this, fuck you. I know best, and like to a certain extent, they were right.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, they were right because these people didn't know more than them. They were them. They were just buying something that they could do themselves. And that really dumbed down the industry for a while. And then you've kind of had this next phase, which is the influencers that, are coming in because they're getting paid by sports books, so they are on a deal with a sports book or a revenue share with a sports book. And then, it doesn't really matter if they win. They're just capitalizing on their followers, and they do have good promos. Like we've always said, using the promos, using the free money, all that stuff is awesome. It's if you do it right, it's critical to building a bankroll. It's free money. Why not take it? Why not use it to your advantage? But with those books giving out those deals and trying to aggregate users, they're just trying to get people on their platform. They know the money they're spending. It's just a cost of doing business at this point because everybody's doing it, and it's a way to get people onto your platform. That they don't really care the results. Which is fine because like if it's for fun, it's for fun. But then you've got your gambling influencers that are doing it every day, and it just really now has like came to the point where everybody wants to parlay, everybody wants a big win, the nerfies, the first touchdown scorers, the props, all this stuff, and I mean, the sports books love it, right? Because they are their
sportsbook advertising and play.
Their profits are at an all-time high. I mean, not their actual bottom line because right now their cost per acquisition, the money they're spending, bringing in all these users, going out marketing to all these clients, that's such a huge expense, but the amount of money being coming in, and then you look at where it's coming from, it's props, it's parlays, huge, right? But props and this and that, and then you've got the underdogs and all these other ones that their bottom line knocks these sports books out of the water because these bets are not good. I mean, when you're talking about sports books making a traditional 10% profit on and whatnot, these guys are making 25 to 30%. I mean, the business model is insane, but the payouts are good, and you can win 5 or 6 or 10 to 1, or they got contests and giveaways, and what they do is they make sports betting fun. Yeah. So for a hobbyist, it's great because if you just want to do it as a hobby, they've found a way to intrinsically make something more fun. But from a bottom line dollar standpoint, definitely not the best. And so how we have gone about doing that would be the community, because that's what you can sell people. That's how you can prove what you're doing. You build a network of people that are saying, no, we trust them. We're in this together. It's not just me. It's not just you. We're all talking every day. We're trying to win together. We've had success at winning together. We've won a shitload over 18 months. Yeah. I mean, that's what we always say, big picture. It's like, man, I had a shitty August, September. I did. But, like, what are you going to do? That's gambling.
Yeah.
If it was called free money, they would call it something else. It'd be a different game. But big picture, blow it up. I mean,
80 units last January and 100 free units in the last month and a half. I mean, that's Yeah, it's just absurd.
It just depends what window you come in on, and
Yep.
you know, the wins will always be more than the losses, more hot streaks than cold streaks. But you know, we are very knowledgeable sports bettors. You, myself, um, you know, everyone that we choose to bring in to the sphere and give out information to people and represent us, you know, they know what the fuck they're talking about.
We're never gonna have,
Yeah.
one of basically a member giving another member pro plays or anything like that.
100%. And in that, you know, in that light, that's where the trust comes from.
Yeah.
Big picture, we're winners. We all fucking love to gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I love
at the end of the
winning.
day, that's why we're here. It's whether it's, you know, at the tables or everything. I mean, like sports betting has really just brought the thrill of gambling into everyone's home. It's spreading all over the nation. You know, there's good tax revenue for the states, a lot of incentive to bring it, you know, into the sphere. You're bringing bookies and all the shadiness out of the marketplace because you're legalizing it, just like a lot of states have done with, you know, marijuana and other things. So, you know, there's good incentive behind it there. But really, we just love to fucking gamble.
We just love
And
it.
like at the end of the
just
day,
fun.
like we said, if you can take a
Mhm.
truly like inherently degenerate behavior, something that, you know, it goes two ways. You can There's winners and losers in this game, and like if you can harness the ability to like manage yourself and use a system and bet properly, like making money off a hobby like that is super fun. What makes it more fun is doing it with your friends, doing
Yeah.
it with people that you share the same passion, the same, you know, commitment towards sports and what we're doing. I mean, that is what makes it, I think, inherently just way better.
Yeah. You were talking earlier about how a lot of these companies like Underdog and all the player props that make you parlay, all those services make so much more money. One of the reasons, basically, pretty simply, one of the reasons is when you parlay, the true odds of hitting that parlay do not equal the payout that you are being given. Like you need to play, like to get a 10-1 payout, you need to hit like a 5 or 6 leg parlay. And hitting 5 or 6 basically even bets, that's not there's not a 10-1 odds on you hitting 6
And
bets.
with every leg, it intrinsically becomes a worse bet.
Yep.
Because it's also plays off a little bit more of like the human greed aspect of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're forced to parlay. But I mean, if you look at it at its core, the reason that they make more money also is that they have eliminated so much sharp action.
Yes.
Like there's I mean, there are people that are running algorithms and they're finding value and they are doing really good work with taking advantage of some of those underdog and this and that
In the player props
style
markets, yeah.
yeah, no, markets, 100% they do. We have friends that do it. There are people that are successful at doing that. But from a big picture standpoint, yeah, they've gotten rid of sharp betters. They've gotten rid of a ton of the, you know, traditional good betters and the way the lines move and everything. I mean, from my personal perspective, I think that it has something to do with it's just harder to find value.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
even for a lot of people, the stats don't. I mean, and then you have to get into if people are injured and this and that, and if one player is injured, if something you didn't know about, your whole bet's done, or if there's just so much
So like
variance.
Chan
There's so much
yesterday,
variance when you bring an entire team sport down to one player that I find it very difficult to find that like market edge that we thrive on. But with that being said, I mean, those guys are making a lot of money. People have a shitload of fun doing them.
Yeah, that's
There
true.
is value to that. I worry about what it does to the overall market and where it's going to take it because, I mean, there will always be a market for a traditional sports book, but times are changing in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're trying to run a business because you want to meet people where they're at.
Mhm.
You want to give them what they want. You want to give them, kind of what they're hoping to get from the industry. But then it's also like trying to curb their interest and say, hey, like, I know this is tough. I know it's not amazing. Like, it's not fun. It's not like the same kind of fun like string. Like, and when I say it's not fun, I just mean it's not the same kind of fun as when you get to the 10th leg of a parlay.
Yeah.
That 10th leg is so incredibly electric. You're sweating before the game even starts. It's awesome. I agree with that. And like doing it, like I did that shit for years.
Yeah.
Right? And I am full well versed in the electricity of the parlay and the props and the, taking a 60-minute game and being like, oh, I'm just gonna bet in the first quarter, and then you get all the action packed into 15 minutes, or a nerfy, right? And you're like, oh, I don't have
Oh my gosh.
I don't have the attention span for an entire baseball game.
Yeah.
Just give it to me. Give me
the
my
first inning.
Give me the first inning and let me go about my day. Like I understand all that. But curbing people's interest in being like, hey, take your hands off the wheel for a second. Set yourself a bankroll. Set yourself a unit. Use these plays to help you increase that unit. Hey, don't play too many plays a day. If you're going to take all these free plays, just do that. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that the way that the industry was pinned towards the scammers and everything like that, I think that is the biggest reason that people just really struggle to be like, hey, I know you want to take my bets, but you also want to do your bets too. Mm-hmm. And like, I know a bunch of bookies, and they'll tell, like, there were, guys that we know and books that we know, and they're like, hey, you're getting a bunch of followers, could you, help us with players, yada, yada, yada. And like, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and trying to find the right way to do it so that, everyone's trust stays intact is tough. But they were well aware of our record, the money we were winning, and this and that. And I asked them, I was like, well, we're going to send you winners. If we're sending you members of the club, we're sending you winners. So I don't know if I'm the right guy to reach out. I don't see how this partnership, like, I'm against you, like, I don't fucking like you. So like, I don't see how this, is really going to be beneficial for me. And even attaching ourselves, it's hard to figure out the right way to do that. But they're like, oh, no, it's okay. You can be a winner, because they're going to come, they'll win off your bets, and then they'll chase more. It'll never be enough, and they'll give it all back, and then some. It's happened a million times. They're like, doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, shit. That says all that. I mean, that says all you really need to know. Says all you really need to know at that point. And, that's where we're at.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, we have a system where, and I've honestly kind of gotten a little more relaxed over the last, I'd say last like 6 months or so. The first 6 months, if someone came to me and said, hey, Chris, build me a parlay, I would just refuse. I'd be like, absolutely not. If someone said, hey, Chris, give me a player prop, give me a first touchdown prop, I'd be like, absolutely not. Now, I've kind of like, okay, you guys want to have fun with it. You guys know where I stand on it. You guys know that I'm not gonna tell you like this is a play that I back, this is a play that I endorse. But at the same time, I'm gonna be like, you know what? You want to have fun? I'll help you have fun. Try to give you a winner. I'll try to give you an anytime touchdown score instead of a first touchdown score, because the odds or the reasoning behind it is a lot better. I'll give you a yerfie, a yes run first inning instead of a nerfie, because you're basically using the books against themselves. So you're using the book's greed against themselves, using the public against itself. I'll give you, a 2-team kind of long money line that have like basically steep money line that you wouldn't play by itself because it's got a lot of juice, but it still has good value on it. I'll pair 2 of those together. I'll give you a 2-teamer that's like a plus 120 or something. I've kind of relaxed into that a little bit from being like never a parlay, never a teaser, never a player prop or anything like that. And
well, you got to let the kids have dessert sometimes.
Exactly.
Like sometimes
it can't always be string beans.
You got to give the kids candy.
Yeah. So when we're talking about balance like that, a lot of the guys will ask. We've had people who have come in and been like, "Hey, we should do this. We should do this type of parlay, or we should do this type of teaser, or we should do this type." Why is single bets like the way we do it? And the way we are married to doing it right now, why is this best long term? And why are we staying with this system long term? And why will this be a good investment for club members for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
Well, for one, I mean, because you and I take such a different approach towards betting and our styles of betting, I would feel like there would almost be like two answers to that question. For you, it's like it's harder to string them together when you're betting about, knowledge of players and this and that. Like you'll always be more profitable if you break that up. If you look at it long term, 2 of 3 is good unless you do a 3-team parlay, right? So for you, that's like a very basic answer. But for myself, when I'm looking more at like value and market movement and money and things like that, you have to look at like how do you find value? And there's a lot of people, some of the people that we know who really like they harp on closing line value.
Yeah.
Meaning getting a bet early on the right side of it. So let's say the Lakers are giving 5 points to the Pistons. Random example. Lakers are giving 5 to the Pistons, and you see value in the Lakers. Okay, well, I'm going to bet the Lakers early when the line opens. Game time, 80% of the market agreed with me. Game time comes. Lakers are now -7.5. You have to win by 8 instead of win by 6. I got closing line value. I got a better bet than you. There's a lot of people that live by that. Then there's people like us that are like, okay, well, I would rather wait, see where the market settles, get as close to game as possible, and try to, not find value against the sports books or that way, but try to find value with what the market itself and individual players, the public, has created for myself.
Use the market's efficiency to make you wiser.
Or honestly, it's inefficiency.
Okay.
Because I would argue that there are so many similarities between, the stock market, running a hedge fund, running a sports book. At their core, they have so many, core similarities. And I would argue that the sports book is just an inefficient one. More efficient towards the sports book, perhaps, but more inefficient towards the player when you look at it that way. And with that, creates value. Now, automatically you lose some of the value you can find just by the hold of the sports book, right? -110 on one side, -110 on the other side. There's always that 4.5%, edge. If the money is equal, there's always that, theoretical 4.5% edge if the money's equal on both sides that they make. And then you get into money lines, and then that hold, that to make it easy for people to understand is, let's say that a favorite is -125. Well, okay, most books will probably offer you, even on the underdog, maybe small plus money. Yeah. Now let's get into -1,000. Now they're only going to give you +500.
Yeah.
+450. But you're laying 10, but you only win 5. Huge hold there. So when you look at a bet that has such a massive hold, for someone like myself that's trying to find value, the larger the hold, the less ability for me to find value traditionally in that bet. And that's why a lot of people string them together in parlays and this and that, which, for a general rule, just doesn't work. Yeah. So, with that being said, I put our record up against anybody transparently, and, our knowledge of what we do, I put it up against, maybe not anybody, but, there's a lot of really smart people that do a lot of really good things in this industry, and like they've made a lot of money for themselves, and it's just like, well, okay, well, I don't see them building a community. It's like bring everybody together. Like I don't see as much value in just texting someone a text chain of my plays every day, or some online portal that they can see and not respond. Like I want to engage back with people. I want the people that are following us to engage with each other. I want a community to be grown, because when you're talking between, there's a lot of people like us that hit between 60 and 65% long term. And it's like, if you're trying to figure out who's hot and who's not, you're never going to figure anything out. It's like, I want to give more value. I want to give people a community. I want them to wake up and be like, oh, I'm going to go see what's going on in the club, talk to all my friends, talk about the sports for the day, the condition of the NBA or the NFL or the big fight card coming up or whatever that may be. Like, it just gives people, a network of people to talk about that there's something they're also passionate about. And, gives people the ability to be a character in a light that's positive too, because so much social media is so negative and so toxic, and that's been the biggest challenge is like, shit, we fucking lose sometimes. We lose sometimes. So like trying to keep everybody positive when we lose, and then it's like, there's always that one person that just, they put way too much on that one bet, and it's like, you feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, people think that we like don't feel bad. Like,
People think we don't care. I hate losing. Hate
like,
it.
I care more about a $20 bet of someone in the club than I care about the $1,000 of myself.
Yep.
And like, it's so stupid, but it is the way that it works. And like, that is the important part of the industry. It's like, I'm not trying to grab anybody's money. I just want to give everybody the community and like the value to be there for people, because in this industry, super lacking. Right? Like, super lacking.
Yep. No, it's a lot of egos. It's a lot of, rah rah, I'm the best.
Everybody's the best.
Everyone's the best.
Everybody's the best.
And it was something we talked about with Doug last week, which is, everyone's the smartest person in the room till the game starts. We talk about, obviously this will air after Eagles Chiefs, but as of this moment, who knows what's going to happen. Everyone is right. Everyone's saying Eagles
right.
money line, Chiefs money line. Everyone's right.
Yeah.
No one's wrong until the game starts.
And
so,
I don't honestly fucking know. I mean, I have some guesses.
Yeah.
But I don't fucking know.
And that's unfortunately, that's exactly what it is. We're using all the tools that we have. We're using all of the knowledge that we have, all the experience that we have to give you our very best guess. And a 1-unit play is our best guess that we're pretty confident in. A 2-unit play is our best guess that we are confident in. 3 is very confident. 4 is very, very confident. And 5 is this is the most confident we can get.
I put my balls on the table for a 5 unit. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm dropping it on the table for 5 units, but it's still a guess.
But it's still 5 units.
Still 5 units.
And it's still a guess. It's not half your bankroll. It's not, I'm gonna double. I'm not doubling up on this bet. It's like, you gotta control yourself. But like, with that being said, I mean, hilarious, because it makes me laugh, because it's just, that's the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, we're doubling up on this one. It's like this past week we won 2 4 units and we lost 1, something like that. It's like, we're going to at least hit 67%, 70% of the 4 units, which means you're going to make a lot of money on those if you just bet those long term.
Don't double or triple it down on the
double
30%.
Don't double or triple the 1 unit that we're putting out after the 4 unit to try to get that loss back. Yeah. It's like, just look at it long term. And so that's something that, it's like raising thousands of kids. Like, guys, don't don't do this. Like, be wise about this. We have obviously, and sometimes, honestly, personally, it's tough to abide by it. Like, it's tough to not double down and go for the next one.
It goes back to the what we talked about earlier. It's all gambling.
Yeah,
it's all gambling.
But at the same time, though, I mean, being out here, it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, you're out in Las Vegas, you guys probably gamble all the time, you probably do this, and this. Me personally, I stay away from the casinos. I know you're addicted to the claw machine. Like you run the claw machine, but at the same time, it's like, gambling becomes more of a business and more of work for us, because we're around it so much, because we're so not desensitized, but because we're so used to it. It's not like this shiny thing anymore. It's something that we can look at objectively.
And the biggest thing that I notice between someone who's been gambling for a long time and somebody who's been gambling for a short period of time is the person that has gambled for a long time. It's like inherently, and I was talking to my girlfriend about this, like, why gamblers are superstitious. Yeah. And like, all gamblers are, right? And I honestly feel like the longer you've been in the industry, the more superstitious you get, right? Because like, gambling makes you see shit you did not think was possible.
Yeah.
Like
That's
outcomes that
absolutely
you
true.
didn't think were possible. Like no reason, no, it just happens. And like it's nuts. And like it's almost like and like this I know that you're like religious and whatnot, and this might seem like a little blasphemous, but like it almost is like makes you either believe in miracles or like reverse miracles. But like
Miracles and
we've
curses.
talked, like my view on religion is always, like I think that it's a way of people feeling comfortable and explaining things that they can't necessarily explain, which is fine. But like that's superstition for gamblers, right? Like they're always trying to explain. They're like, what position was something in that made
Yeah.
21 points get scored in 2 minutes?
Yep.
Because I need to put that there every time.
Yep.
Or if like, your team is covering by 30 and then like something happens and you're like, oh my God. And then like, something crazy happens and you don't cover anymore and you're like, what just happened to make
Like, what did I do?
to make
Who said
this
something?
team do that? Because I need to, like, I didn't think that was possible. I need to like assign some bit larger than myself reason to why that just happened to me, either good or bad, right? Like I said, it can make you believe in miracles or not believe in miracles or like anti-miracles or like just the devil having his hand in my life. I just there's so I
Now we've all experienced that at some point. I mean, I remember when we were kids, I was watching. It was back when Michael Vick was playing for the Eagles, right? Playoff game. I think it was against the Packers. Game-winning potential drive. I am standing firmly in the same spot in my house, arms crossed in the same way the entire drive. It's working great. I accidentally like had an itch, and my right foot, right toe stepped on the carpet that was in front of me. I look at the TV and scream, "Don't pass it!" Michael Vick tries to throw a fade to Riley Cooper, picked off, game's over.
and it was
And
your
I'm like,
fault.
and it was
like,
my fault. It was. I'm
something-
sorry, Philadelphia. It was my fault.
But like something inside a gambler actually makes him think that that is true.
Yep.
And like I said, I try to explain it to my girlfriend, and she thinks I'm fucking nuts. And she's like, I don't believe in that shit. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
you don't understand like the depth of like my soul that gets tortured when I like hear the number 7 if I'm within like 100 yards of a craps table, playing or not. I'm like, oh, that one's gonna stick with me like I didn't wipe my ass the last time I went to the bathroom. Like I am the worst. You've seen me.
Oh no,
I'm the worst.
Every time, oh my gosh, I've never seen anyone stare harder at with anger at the drink girls than when they come by and they're asking for drinks. It's like you turn your bet off every time because it's an automatic 7 every time.
Dude, especially if I'm rolling. I don't know what it is. It's like I don't want to talk to you. I'm focused. I was doing good.
Money on the
I
table.
threw
I've
no
seen you-
7s. I'm focused.
Yep.
And then you came and I'm like, I do want a ginger ale. I'm parched.
But go away.
But go away. And like it almost is like I was listening to the conversation that you had last week with Doug when he's talking about these people that like pee their pants at the sports book or pee their pants for a seat and this, that, which I find absolutely hilarious. And I make fun of them. I make fun of them so hard. But like, I think that if I was on a good craps roll and I was standing at a craps table for long enough, I mean, there's a very good chance that I would very happily go 10 hours with no liquid. Like if we could just do away with drink girls, like that would be fine.
That'd be great.
That'd be fine. I could go to the maybe I could go to the bathroom and like get a water or something like that, but like no drinks at the table like would be optimal. And I don't know why. But
I get it.
But it's only my jinx, right? Like other people don't believe.
I've seen you almost throw hands with people that put money on the craps table in the middle of a run.
Yeah, I mean that's just etiquette.
That's just
That's
that
just
is
etiquette.
etiquette.
That's just
but at
bad.
the
It's a
same time,
jinx,
yeah, it's a jinx.
But it's just etiquette. It's like, I guess what I don't like is like we're doing good, we're on a roll, let's keep it going, because like you've always got people that, especially like if we're talking about craps, like you're on a good roll and you're hitting and you're like one number away from a bonus, and then they want to like slow the dice down and chase the bonus and this, that, and I'm like, guys, set your bets. We came on, everybody just let us work, let the dealers work, like let's keep a good pace to this thing, let's get a groove going, because like nobody hates more than when you're like actually trying to play craps and like you're at a craps table and you're just clunking along, and like the dealers aren't dealing fast and the roller's not rolling fast.
When in reality, every throw is independent.
Of
Every
course,
throw is
of
the
course,
same
but
odds.
but we, like I said, like gambling is, to a real gambler, is all about it's our like religion. It's trying to explain the things that we can't explain, right? Like we know it's possible, but you're at a blackjack table and you hit a 20 and then dealer's showing a 6 and you're sitting there and like that you have an 86, I know you have like an 86 something percent chance of winning that hand.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, and then for some reason they flip like a 2. They flip a 2.
Yeah.
And then they flip a 4, and then they got a 12, and then an ace, and then a 2, and then a freaking another ace, and then a 5, and then they got 21, and then it's all over, and you're like, how in the shit
get a 7
was
card
there
21? Yeah.
was there 8 cards that could in a deck that could possibly do that to me? I didn't know that existed.
Yep.
I didn't know that combination was physically possible. It never seems to happen for me.
Yeah, no.
It always seems to
happens
happen
for you.
against, because like for like the scenario that I just laid out to you, the odds of that have to be like pretty close to like a straight flush. I don't want to say a royal flush because I know that is like
a 4 of a kind.
I don't know the numbers, but like I know they're not good.
Yeah.
But you're like, man, I've gotten beat by so many like 7, 8 card 21s in my life. I can almost remember like 5 or 10.
Yeah.
But I'm like, shit, I think I hit a straight flush like twice.
Yeah.
And it's like, why does it always happen against me? Or like being a Bills fan, it's like, some of the biggest collapses in history. It's just like, it always happens against me. But that's what makes you believe in jinxes.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Not absolutely. Kind of closing it out, we've gotten to the point where we have, so many people in the club. There are, some that are, perpetually positive, some that are perpetually negative, some that are perpetually silent. What has it been like bringing people like from every single type of person from all over the country, internationally together? What is the goal for the club? And if you were to talk to them and you were to deliver one message to them, either a message of, hey, like this is going to be a fantastic adventure, this is going to be, or hey, like just chill with us through the good, bad, and ugly. What would your message overall to old club members, new club members be?
So I would, my message on that one would be like, figure out what you're here for and do as much as you can to get that out of it. If you're here for the community, like engage in the community, talk to these guys. They're cool guys. They want to talk, right? Like if that's what you're here for, like do that and make it about that. Make it about the fun and the hobby, and go to the members bets and share your bets and like do that. That's totally fine. If you want to make it about like getting wins and maximizing long-term gains, like the obvious way is like you can play all the plays. If you have the bankroll to sustain it, you can do all this stuff. Or, like now we want to get into like breaking it down sport by sport so you can see where we're hot, where we're cold, which sports are running good, which ones are running bad, so you're not seeing it as an overall displayed result, so you can get the most out of it that way. And if your goal is to just come into a group and chirp and be the negative Nancy, like fuck off. Because like we're gonna grow this thing super big, and like we have a lot of plans, and like step by step, the main thing is like being able to support the community, keep the personal one-on-one aspect of it going, keep the relationships, keep people building, keep it non-toxic as much as possible. I mean, that's like a big thing that's kept us growing at the rate that we're growing. It's like it's hard to, with just a couple of people involved and everybody, it's really hard to keep people non-toxic, happy, things like that. So like growing in ways that we can really do that is super important too. And we're gonna do it. I'm super excited for the year, for this next year. We're in the middle of a hot streak right now, and I feel like every hot streak brings like excitement to just know like how many units we can stack before we come back down to earth,
Yeah.
and then we
Or
pedal,
variance
and
hits.
then variance hits, and then everybody hates us again.
Yep.
Even though it's like, guys, it's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Is the name of the game.
It is really what have you done for me recently business.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if everybody called their fucking stockbrokers the way they called us?
Yeah.
Like, hey man, COVID just hit and I lost half my money. You're bad.
It's like, you're bad at this.
And
Yeah.
it's like, no,
No.
it's just the name of the game. It's the world's in a pandemic, or like whatever it may be. It's like, it's just trusting that you got people that do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's there's so many people that, like, at its baseline level, it's just like, align yourself with people that are doing it for the right reasons, that are in the industry for the right reasons, that want to see everybody succeed. See the red flags, pick up on them, like, and then, don't engage. Just keep on moving, because the biggest thing that spreads a lot of these things is like the engagement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the losers online got more followers than you, because everybody just comments, likes, comments on all their fucking losses. And it's like, okay, well, are we really here to be toxic, or do we want to make money?
Yeah.
And I am on the latter side of that.
I'd rather build a following of people who want to do it for the right reasons and make money.
Yeah. And then,
rather than people that want to be negative.
and like, it's not a competition. Cause we live in Vegas. The lights shine bright. Like, there's plenty of money to go around.
Yeah. That's true. All right, guys. Well, that's Johnny Lillis, Johnny Cash It, for those of you on, the social media spheres. Thank you guys for tuning in again, and we'll be back with you next week, and we'll talk some, we'll talk some strategy, some sports betting. We'll talk the state of sports, and hope you guys got a lot of good information out of this. As always, if you guys have any questions for us, any questions you want us to answer in a podcast format, we're always open in Discord. We're on there every day, so jump in and chat with us. And as always, go have fun in the Discord.